What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. My name's Dustin. If you haven't done so, hit that subscribe button. We're almost there. 1,000 subscribers. Here we come. Today, I want to talk brakes. If you guys are followers of the channel, you already know I'm a big fan of Fomula Cura brakes. I've got about 2,000 miles on them now, so I've definitely got to know these brakes very well. Kind of give you guys a quick little history of brakes that I've been on. When I really started getting into mountain biking, I was on the SLX, looking like 2014, 15. And then I stepped up to the XTs with the chrome plates on top. Loved those brakes, was a huge fan. They had tons of power. They were a 2-piston brake. And then I bought a Scott Genius, and my friend Brett Nichols introduced me to the SRAM Guide RSCs, and I absolutely fell in love with those brakes. The modulation's what got me. The Shimanos were just too on-offy for me, and it just felt like there was a lot of power, but it was just, I felt like the SRAMs were kind of like traction control, where it's so dry, the XTs get on the brakes and it was like you'd slide out. It was just too much power, where the SRAMs, I could control my bike a lot better in corners. And then I stepped up to, on my high tower I stepped up to the Code RSCs, and those were like guides on steroids, like just way more power, still tons of modulation. But I had a lot of problems with SRAM brakes. So they have that contact adjust dial where adjust your pistons and to keep the pull kind of consistent. And I just felt like I was constantly blowing through that dial so quick, and then I'd have to reset my pistons, and I could just never get them to just be like set and forget. Whereas my Shimanos were set and forget, but I just didn't love the feel of them compared to the SRAM. So I've been kind of looking for something that's got that SRAM feel, but more of a consistent feel. A local bike shop here, Joy Red Cycles, I've bought a couple bikes from them, some Santa Cruz bikes. They're big fans of these Cura brakes right here, and I did not like these brakes at first because they just feel so much different than SRAM. But after a couple rides, I fell in love with them. It's got unbelievably good modulation. The lever pull just feels so much better than SRAM and so much better than Shimano. The Shimanos feel like they have they snap, like where you pull them in and it snaps back. Where these have just a more of a buttery actuation. So, all right, let's talk pros and cons of these brakes. Another huge pro for these formulas is the price, especially the 2-pistons. They come in at $165 a brake. So you're looking $330. $330 for a set of the Cura 2s. And if you look at the time of this video, we're in December 2020, Code RSCs are going for I found them online for like $245 a brake. So you're looking like $490, maybe $500. So I mean, you're gonna save over $150 getting these brakes. So that's a huge, huge selling point. And the rotors are cheap. They're like $30 maybe. Same with the SRAM. They're rotor-wise, they're about the same. Shimano rotors are like double the money. They're like $60, $70 a rotor. These are like $30, $35. So same as SRAM. So that's a huge, huge positive. Second pro to these brakes, the weight. They're super light. These are cross-country light brakes. They weigh, they come in at like with hose and everything, 359 grams for the set. And compared to my Code RSCs were 568 off the top of my head. 568 grams a set. So over 200 grams in weight savings, and they have the same power. And they're $150 cheaper. So 200 gram weight savings, $150 price point savings, They've got the same power or more than the SRAM code RSCs, and they're Italian. Italians are badass. I'm Italian, and we make badass shit. So one thing I do want to mention, why I went with the 2-piston over the 4-piston. For one, this bike is a short travel bike. It's a 120, 130. It's only 30 pounds with pedals. So I just didn't necessarily, I mean, that's kind of heavy for the travel it is. But I didn't see a need in getting the 4 pistons. Also, I did have a problem with my SRAM's 4 pistons. One of the pistons would get stuck, and so you'd have 2 firing on this side and only 1 firing, and like one would get stuck, and it would cause more power on one side on the other, and I'd get like this head shake. So I'd be going down and grab some brake, and one piston wouldn't fire, it'd stick, and you get it kind of this scary feeling, kind of like a twitchy feeling. It feels like someone's shaking the bars. I had them warranted a couple times, so I just kept having problems. With 2 pistons, I just feel like there's less things that can go wrong. So everyone now thinks 4 pistons better. They think it's more power. They think it's more modulation, and maybe it is, but these have tons of modulation, tons of power, just as much as the 4 pistons I've ran. So take that with a grain of salt for what it's worth. 2 pistons just seem like there's less things that could go wrong. Going to be more consistent, more reliable. It just seemed to me like a no-brainer, especially for this bike. So just one last thing, let's talk about the cons. So I've talked about how great these brakes are. They're just ridiculous power, great modulation, consistency. Like, so you're like, what's the downside? They're hard to find. Yeah, luckily Joyride, they swear by them, and they always carry a ton of stock. So they always have brakes in there, and they always have brake pads and rotors in stock, just because they all use them themselves. But I don't think a lot of shops are going to stock. So when you need brake pads, they might be hard to find. So you might want to get online maybe and buy a couple extra sets of pads, a couple extra sets of rotors. That way, if you ever do need to swap them out and you're in a pinch, you got them there, and then once you use those, you can just order a new set. So you always have a backup set. That would be my recommendations. Luckily here, I don't have too much of an issue, because usually Joyride's pretty stocked up. All right, let's take a look here. So here's the brakes. I really like the design. It's just a very, very subdued, not bulky at all. Just really like the way these things look, and love the way they feel. So as you can see here, I just have a very quick engagement. I mean, that's pulling as hard as I can. So tons of power right off the get. And same thing over here. Exact same. Boom. Yeah, love these brakes. I think they look awesome. They feel awesome. Can't say enough good things about them. So I went with the 2s. So here's the rotor right here. This is their monolithic rotor. And there's a caliper. I'm running the organic pads, the black backing ones. The setup I got right here, I'm not changing it. It just feels absolutely perfect. All the power in the world, all the modulation I could ever want, and just unbelievable consistency. So, huge fan of these brakes. Been meaning to review these for a while. A subscriber, JJ, shout out to JJ. He just bought an Eva Following, and he's waiting for his, and he was asking me about these brakes, so figured give me an excuse to get a review on these things. I'll link an article down below from Enduro Bike Mag, and they took all these brakes, Hopes, Trick Stuff, Code RSCs, XTs, Cura 2s, and the Cura 2s outperformed the SRAM RSC and the XT and the Hopes in the 45 to 0 and the 45 to 15 mile or kilometer deceleration tests. These ones they beat them out by a lot. The only ones that were better, I think, in the 45 kilometer to 0 was the Maguras and the Trick Stuff. Trick Stuffs are like crazy expensive and they're like a year out, but these were like top dog or second to top dog on every single test. So they're big fans of them. They put them through the test. I put them through the test. I cannot recommend these brakes enough. Ditch your Shimanos, ditch your SRAMs. It was hard for me to get off the big name brands just because SRAM and Shimano, you like instantly know, oh, that's a quality product. And it's just like, not saying it's not a quality product, I just had so many more issues with their brakes than I have with these. So anyways, hope that helped you guys out. Fomula, Cura 2 brakes. I'm not getting off these things anytime soon. Love them. They're the best. See you on the next one.